Hi, welcome to Module 2. I want to kind of just walk you through this module, so I'll share my screen with you. If you are in this module, this one is about moral relativism or ethical relativism. And what we're doing here is we're getting into this question of where do moral statements come from? Oftentimes, if you say like, I like the movie, or I like, if you say I like salmon, or I don't like fish, or I like beef, or I don't like beef, or whatever it be, right? And so you say these types of things that are kind of opinions about food, there is sometimes it's just a matter of taste, a matter of personal preference, and that's to a certain degree the way we do it with things like food. But we also can say things like certain foods taste better than other foods. For example, if I dump a cup of salt into soup, it probably isn't going to taste very good. Or if I put salt into cookies instead of sugar, it's probably not going to taste good. And that's a fairly universal claim about taste. And so what happens with those matters of taste in food is the question is, where does the truth lie? Well, in ethical relativism, the question is what about in moral claims like murder is wrong? Is that simply like taste, or is it something more like salt in cookies instead of sugar? It's pretty universally accepted that that does not taste good. And so where do moral claims come from? Some people say that they are culturally derived and they really are just the product of your culture. Other people say it's not even culture, it's just individually decided. And then other people say, no, there's a right and wrong, and that, it holds universally, period, in the story, no more discussion. And so we get into questions about where is the truth in ethical claims, and how do you get to that? So we start off with a lesson on ethical truth and moral claims. And I have a video where I probably say some stuff very similar to what I said now. And you go through that. I will have questions about it from this on the exam. Then you'll have a lesson, which is actually a link out to another article so you have to click and then it'll open it elsewhere. And this will be the article on moral relativism on basically realism in moral claims. Read that. I'll have questions on the exam from that. And then after that, we'll have our first kind of real discussion board in which I ask you a question about stealing bricks over the course of a career, in which somebody steals enough bricks and builds a house, whether or not that's one big crime of stealing a house, or whether or not it's a bunch of individual misdemeanor charges, how you would charge them, what the right or wrongness of that is, what kind of punishment's reasonable, that kind of thing. And so it's asking you kind of just to think about kind of how terminology plays a role, but also get into a moral issue and actually give your opinion. This is one where I want you to give your opinion and to tell me what you think. There's usually several questions that prompt you to think about. And you should write about a 300-word response explaining what you think and why, and defending what you're saying. The other part of this is after you've done that, then you'll respond to other people's messages, and you'll have to do at least 2 responses to other people. But I always tell people, if you do the minimum number of responses to other people, that's average work, and I'll give you a C. You really should be coming back multiple times over multiple days to really engage the conversation, or to respond a couple times, to read a few different people and not just rush through it all in one sitting. So I'd like to see probably at least 4 responses to others for an A, and having been done over a couple of days. This is all due at the end of the module, as well as the exam, which will be 50 points. It'll have a mixture of questions over the lesson, over the reading, and it'll have a few questions from the previous exam. From module 1 exam, I'm going to try to every exam give a couple questions from earlier exams, and the reason is it kind of forces you to kind of review that every single module. Just you keep a list of your notes and you kind of just glance over them, or glance over key terms, that kind of thing, as you get ready to take the exam, and part of it will be over that. There will be very specific rules or instructions when you click on the module 2. All right, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to contact me. I'm here to help, and I wish you well.